The purple sky of Nethys burned with dying light as Zixathara watched another 1,000 of her people fade away. The ancient Velthari elder stood at the window of the great council chamber, her 6 arms trembling as she pressed them against the crystal wall. Below, the once mighty cities of her world lay in ruins, their gleaming towers now dark and empty. The plague had come from nowhere 3 cycles ago. It ate through everything living, turning flesh to dust and bone to nothing. The Velthari had built their civilization on peace and knowledge for 50,000 years. They had never known war, never built weapons, never hurt another soul. But now their kindness meant nothing against this invisible death. "Elder, we have lost the southern continent," whispered Kethmar, her youngest advisor. His blue skin had turned gray with the sickness and his voice barely reached her ears. "The last city fell this morning. No one answered our calls." Zixathara closed her large golden eyes. When she opened them again, tears like liquid silver ran down her face. "How many are left?" "Perhaps 10,000. Maybe less. 10,000. From a population of 8 billion, only 10,000 remained." The plague moved faster each day, and their greatest minds could not stop it. They had tried everything they knew, but the Velthari had never faced anything like this. Their science was built for creation, not destruction. "The quantum transmitter is ready, Elder," said another voice. This came from Hexara, the chief of communications. She was one of the few who still looked healthy, but Zixathara could see the fear in her eyes. "We can send the message across the galaxy." Zixathara turned from the window. The great council chamber had once held 500 members. Now only 12 remained, and half of them were too sick to speak. The great dome above them, which had once shown the stars in all their glory, now displayed only darkness. "Show me the message," she said. Hexara touched a crystal panel, and words appeared in the air before them. The message was simple, written in the common galactic language that all civilizations used for trade and diplomacy. "We are the Velthari of Nethys in the Kepler 442 system. We are dying. A plague consumes our world and our people. We have tried everything we know, but we cannot stop it. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We do not want to die. We do not want our civilization to end. Please, help us." The words hung in the air like a prayer. Zixathara read them again, then nodded slowly. "Send it. Send it to every star, every world, every ship that might hear us." "Elder," Kethmar said softly, "what if no one comes? What if they fear the plague will spread to them?" Zixathara looked at her dying advisor. "Then we will face the end with dignity, as we have lived. But perhaps someone out there will have the courage to help strangers." Hexara activated the transmitter. The massive quantum array beneath the capital city hummed to life, using the last of their power reserves. The message shot out across space faster than light, reaching toward distant stars and unknown worlds. Far away, in a part of the galaxy that most civilizations avoided, the message found its way to a human ship. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his 3rd cup of coffee when the communication alert sounded. He sat in the command chair of the UES Defiance, a mid-size exploration vessel that had seen better days. The ship was old, but she was tough, and Morrison trusted her more than any of the newer models. "What is it, Park?" he called to his communications. Officer Lieutenant Lisa Park looked up from her console, confusion clear on her face. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal, but it's not in any human language, and it's not from any known human colony." Morrison set down his coffee. "Put it through the translator." The ship's computer worked for a moment, then a voice filled the bridge. It was alien, but the universal translator made the words clear. The message was simple and desperate. "We are the Velthari of Nethys in the Kepler 442 system. We are dying. A plague consumes our world and our people. We have tried everything we know, but we cannot stop it. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We do not want to die. We do not want our civilization to end. Please help us." The bridge fell silent. Morrison looked around at his crew. Amy Carter, his science officer, was staring at her screen with wide eyes. Ben Rodriguez, his chief engineer, had stopped working on his repairs. Even the normally busy bridge seemed to hold its breath. "Sir," Park said quietly, "the signal is coming from the Kepler system. That's 3 days away at maximum jump." Morrison stood up. He was a big man, with gray hair and scars from the Centauri Wars. He had seen plenty of death and destruction in his 45 years, but something about this message got to him. Maybe it was the simple honesty of it. Maybe it was the fact that these aliens were asking for help instead of demanding it. "What do we know about the Kepler system?" he asked. Carter checked her database. "Not much, sir. It's marked as unexplored by human ships, but there are some old scan reports from long-range probes. One planet in the habitable zone, signs of advanced civilization. The reports are 50 years old, though. Any warnings? Any reason to stay away?" "No, sir. Just, it's far from human. Space. If we go there, we'll be on our own." Morrison walked to the main screen and stared out at the stars. Earth Command had given him orders to patrol the outer rim, looking for new trade routes and habitable worlds. They had not told him to answer alien distress calls. In fact, they probably would not want him to. But Jake Morrison had not joined the space service to follow safe orders. He had joined to explore, to help, to make the galaxy a better place, and right now, somewhere out there, people were dying. "Rodriguez," he called to his engineer, "how's our jump drive?" "Ready when you are, Captain. We've got fuel for 6 jumps, maybe 7 if we push it." Morrison nodded. "Park, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we received an alien distress call and we're responding. Tell them we'll report back when we can." "Sir," Carter said carefully, "we don't know anything about these aliens. We don't know if it's safe. We don't even know if the message is real." Morrison looked at her. "Amy, if you were dying and you sent out a call for help, would you want someone to come?" Carter nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." "Then that's what we're going to do." Morrison sat back down in his command chair. "All hands, prepare for jump. We're going to Kepler 442. As the Defiance powered up its jump drive, none of the crew knew they were about to change the galaxy forever. They only knew that somewhere in the darkness, someone needed help. And humans, Jake Morrison had learned long ago, did not abandon people in need. The Defiance dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder that ran through the whole ship. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the stars stopped spinning and became steady points of light. But what he saw on the main screen made his blood run cold. The Kepler 442 system was not empty. 30 sleek black ships surrounded the dying planet of Nethys like vultures around a corpse. The vessels were long and sharp, with weapons that glowed red in the darkness. Morrison had never seen ships like these before, but he knew trouble when he saw it. "Amy, what are we looking at?" he asked his science officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter worked quickly at her station, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Unknown. Ship design, sir. But the energy readings are off the charts. Those are military vessels heavily armed. And, sir, they're scanning the planet below." Morrison studied the alien ships. They moved in perfect formation, like a pack of hunters. Something about their behavior bothered him. They were not trying to help the dying world below. They were watching it die. "Park, any response to our arrival?" Communications Officer Lisa Park shook her head. "Nothing yet, sir. But I'm picking up transmissions between the alien ships the computer is trying to translate." Ben Rodriguez, the chief engineer, looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm reading some kind of energy weapon discharge. It's coming from those ships and hitting the planet's surface." Morrison felt anger building in his chest. "Are you telling me those ships are attacking the planet?" "Not attacking exactly, sir. But they're definitely doing something to it. The energy pattern matches the plague readings we detected." Amy Carter's face went pale. "Captain, I think I understand what's happening. Those ships aren't here to help. They're the ones causing the plague. This isn't a natural disaster. It's murder." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Morrison stared at the black ships on the screen. He had seen evil before, but this was something else. These aliens were slowly killing an entire civilization, and watching them die. "Sir?" Park said suddenly. "We're being hailed." On screen. The main display changed to show an alien face. The creature had gray skin, small black eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the universal translator made its words clear, but the voice was cold and harsh. "Unknown vessel. You are in Korthak space. Identify yourself and state your business." Morrison stood up slowly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Defiance. We received a distress call from this system. We're here to help." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Help is not required. The planet below is infected with a plague. We are here to make sure it does not spread. You will leave immediately." "And if we refuse?" The alien smiled, showing all of its sharp teeth. "Then you will share their fate. I am Admiral Thekvar of the Korthak Empire. We have 30 ships. You have one. Leave now, or be destroyed." Morrison looked around at his crew. Carter was analyzing the alien plague. Rodriguez was checking their weapons. Park was recording everything. None of them looked afraid. They all looked angry. "Admiral Thekvar," Morrison said calmly, "we humans have a saying. We don't abandon people in need. We're going to help those people down there whether you like it or not." The alien admiral laughed. "Humans, I have heard of your species. Young, foolish, and weak. You think you can fight the Korthak Empire? You will learn better." The transmission ended. Morrison sat back down and activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We've found the source of the plague killing. The people below. It's not natural. Those 30 ships out there are slowly murdering an entire civilization. I know we're outnumbered. I know this isn't our fight, but I'm not going to sit here and watch genocide happen. Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttle and head for human space. No one will think less of you." He waited. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Ben Rodriguez stood up. "Captain, with respect, where the hell would we go? Those bastards are killing innocent people." "We're staying." One by one, the rest of the crew nodded. Amy Carter was already working on a cure for the plague. Lisa Park was trying to contact the survivors on the planet below. Even the junior officers on the bridge looked ready for a fight. Morrison felt proud of his crew. They were good people. Every one of them. "All right then. Ben, get our weapons." "Online." "Amy, how long until you can synthesize a cure for that plague?" "I'm not sure, sir. This is unlike anything I've ever seen, but I think I can adapt our medical supplies. Human biology is weird compared to most species. We might be immune to whatever they're using." "Do it. Park, try to reach the planet. Let them know help is coming." Park worked at her console, then looked up with excitement. "Sir, I'm getting a response. It's weak, but someone down there is still alive." The main screen flickered and a new face appeared. This one was clearly not human, but it was also clearly not evil. The creature had blue skin, large golden eyes, and an expression of desperate hope. "This is Elder Zixthera of the Velthari. Are you here to help us?" Morrison smiled. "Yes, ma'am. We're here to help. My name is Captain Jake Morrison. We're humans, and we got your message." Tears ran down the alien's face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. But you must be careful. The Korthak ships have been killing us slowly. They want our world, but they want us dead first. How many of you are left?" "Perhaps 8,000. We are hiding in the deep shelters, but the plague finds us everywhere. We do not have much time." Morrison nodded. "Hold on. We're coming to get you." The transmission ended just as alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Rodriguez looked up from his console with a grim expression. "Captain, the Korthak ships are moving. They're forming an attack formation." Morrison activated the ship's combat systems. The Defiance was not a warship, but she had teeth. "All hands, battle stations. Amy, how long do you need for that cure?" "At least 2 hours, sir. Then we hold them off for 2 hours." Morrison looked at the 30 enemy ships surrounding them. "Park, open a channel to the Korthak Admiral." Gray face appeared on screen again, still smiling its cruel smile. Have you decided to leave, human? Actually, Admiral, I've got a message for you and your whole empire. We don't care how many ships you have, we don't care how powerful you think you are. You're killing innocent people, and that makes you our enemy. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop attacking that planet, or we're going to stop you. The alien admiral laughed again. 1 ship against 30? You're insane. Morrison smiled back. Admiral, you're about to learn something about humans. We're all a little insane. And we're very good at fighting. The first Korthak ship opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space toward the Defiance. Morrison gripped his chair as the ship shook under the impact. Return fire, he ordered. The battle for Nethys had begun. The Defiance shook as enemy fire hit her shields. Captain Jake Morrison held tight to his chair while sparks flew from damaged consoles around the bridge. Through the main screen he could see 3 Korthak ships closing in, their weapons charging, for another attack. Shields at 60%, called out Ben Rodriguez from his engineering station. But I can give you more power to weapons if you need it. Morrison nodded. Do it. Amy, how much time do you need? Dr. Amy Carter was working frantically at her science station, her hands moving over samples and equipment. 90 minutes, sir. Maybe less if I can figure out how their plague works. 90 minutes. Morrison had to keep 30 enemy ships busy. For 90 minutes with just 1 ship. Most people would call that impossible. Morrison called it Tuesday. Lisa, patch me through to the whole fleet, he ordered. The communications officer looked confused. Sir, we don't have a fleet. Morrison smiled grimly. We do now. Open a channel to all Korthak ships. The face of Admiral Tekvar appeared on screen looking annoyed. Behind him, Morrison could see the bridge of his ship, filled with gray-skinned aliens preparing for battle. What do you want, human? Ready to surrender? Actually, Admiral, I wanted to give you one last chance. Pull back your ship, stop the plague, and we can all go home. Keep fighting, and you're going to learn why humans are so good at war. The alien admiral laughed. You have 1 ship, we have 30, what can you possibly do? Morrison's smile got wider. You're about to find out. Dan, you ready? Security Chief Dan Hayes stepped forward. He was a big man, even bigger than Morrison, with arms like tree trunks and scars from a dozen fights. Ready, Captain. Good. Take your team and get ready for boarding action. Admiral Tekvar stopped laughing. Boarding action? You cannot be serious. Dead serious, Admiral. See, you made 1 mistake. You think this is about numbers, 30 ships against 1, but you're wrong. This is about what we're fighting for. You're fighting to kill innocent people. We're fighting to save them, and humans fight a lot harder when we're protecting someone else. Morrison cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Ben, give me everything the engines have. Lisa, jam their communications. I want them confused and isolated. Amy, keep working on that cure. Dan, you and your team get ready to visit our new friends. The Defiance suddenly accelerated, diving toward the enemy formation like a missile. The Korthak ships tried to track her, but Morrison was flying like a man possessed, spinning and diving between enemy fire. He had learned to fly in the Centauri. Wars, where a slow pilot was a dead pilot. Target their lead ship, Morrison ordered. All weapons full power. The Defiance's guns spoke. Beams of pure energy lanced out, striking the nearest Korthak vessel. The alien ship's shields flared and died. Before the enemy could react, Morrison spun his ship around and hit them again. The Korthak ship exploded in a ball of fire. 1 down, Morrison said calmly. 29 to go. The remaining Korthak ships moved to surround the human vessel, but Morrison was already gone, diving toward another target. This time, though, the aliens were ready. Multiple ships fired at once, and the Defiance took heavy damage. Shields failing, Rodriguez called out. Hull breach on deck 3. Seal it off. Dan, now's your chance. Hayes and his security team were already in the airlocks wearing full combat armor. As the Defiance swooped close to another Korthak ship, Hayes used the ship's emergency docking system to attach to the enemy vessel's hull. Cutting through now, Hayes reported over the comm. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. Hayes and his team burst through the hull of the Korthak ship like an unstoppable force. The aliens had never fought humans before. They had never seen anything like human combat tactics. Humans, it turned out, were very good at fighting in small spaces. They were fast, strong, and absolutely ruthless when protecting others. The Korthak soldiers, used to fighting passive species, were overwhelmed in minutes. "Bridge secured," Hayes reported. "These guys really don't know how to fight." Morrison grinned. "Can you fly that thing?" "Working on it now. Their controls are weird, but I think I've got it." Suddenly, the captured Korthak ship opened fire on its own fleet. The aliens were so surprised that 2 more ships were destroyed before they realized what was happening. Admiral Thekvar's voice crackled over the communication system. "What have you done? How did you take one of our ships?" "I told you, Admiral. Humans are good at war, but we're not done yet." Morrison swung the Defiance toward another group of enemy ships. This time he tried something different. Instead of fighting them directly, he led them on a chase through the asteroid field at the edge of the system. The Korthak ships followed, thinking they had him trapped. They were wrong. Morrison knew how to use the asteroids as weapons. He would fly close to a large rock, then suddenly turn away. The pursuing Korthak ships, going too fast to stop, would crash into the asteroids and explode. 3 more enemy ships died this way. Meanwhile, Dr. Carter was making progress on the cure. "Captain, I think I've got it. The plague isn't actually biological, it's some kind of energy weapon that breaks down living tissue. But human cellular structure is different. We can adapt our medical nanobots to counteract it." "How long to make enough for the whole planet?" 20 minutes, sir. But I need to get down to the surface to distribute it." Morrison looked at the tactical display. They had knocked out 7 Korthak ships, but 23 were still fighting, and more were coming to investigate the battle. "Amy, take a shuttle down to the planet. Dan, go with her and keep her safe. Ben, give me everything we've got left." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Morrison's life. The Defiance fought like a cornered wolf, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Morrison used every trick he had learned in 20 years of combat. He hid behind the planet's moon, used the gravity well to slingshot around the star, and even flew directly through the upper atmosphere of a gas giant to lose pursuing ships. But the enemy was learning too. They started working together, coordinating their attacks. The Defiance took more and more damage with each pass. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, "I'm losing life support on decks 4 and 5. We can't take much more of this." Then Amy Carter's voice came over the comm from the planet's surface. "It's working. The cure is working. I'm seeing the plague retreat wherever we deploy the nanobots. The Velthari are going to survive." Morrison felt a surge of joy, but it was cut short as another enemy barrage slammed into his ship. "That's great, Amy. Now get back up here before we all die." Admiral Thekvar appeared on screen again. His gray face was twisted with rage. "You have ruined everything. Do you know how long we planned this? How long we waited for these people to die so we could claim their world?" "About as long as it took us to stop you," Morrison replied. "You picked the wrong species to murder, Admiral. The Velthari are under human protection now. You cannot protect them forever. More ships are coming. The entire Korthak fleet will hunt you down." Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "Admiral, let me tell you something about humans. We're not just good at fighting. We're good at making friends, and we just made 8,000 new friends who are very grateful to be alive. Plus, we've been recording this whole battle." "What do you mean?" "I mean every ship, every station, every civilization within 100 light years is going to know what happened here. They're going to know that the Korthak Empire murders innocent people, and they're going to know that when someone calls for help, humans answer." Morrison activated his ship's emergency broadcast system. The entire battle, including the Korthak ships slowly killing the planet, went out across all communication frequencies. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Defiance. If you're receiving this message, know that humanity stands with the innocent against the strong. If you need help, call us. We'll come." The message spread across the galaxy at light speed. On 1,000 worlds and 100 different species, people heard humanity's first words to the galactic community. Admiral Thekvar stared at Morrison with pure hatred. "You have made an enemy of the Korthik Empire." "Good," Morrison said simply. "I'd rather have you as an enemy than the Velthari as corpses." The shuttle carrying Amy Carter and Dan Hayes docked with the Defiance just as the remaining Korthak ships retreated. Morrison watched them go, knowing this was just the beginning. Down on the planet Nethys, 8,000 Velthari were alive because one human captain had decided to answer a distress call. And across the galaxy, that decision was about to change everything. 3 weeks after the battle at Nethys, the galaxy was buzzing with talk about the humans. In every spaceport, on every trading station, in the halls of power on 100 worlds, beings were discussing the same question. Who were these humans, and what did they want? Ambassador Helen Cruz stepped off her shuttle onto the main docking bay of Nethys Station. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had spent 30 years in diplomatic service. Behind her came a team of human diplomats, scientists, and aid workers. The station was a marvel of Velthari engineering, built in orbit around their homeworld. It gleamed with the same crystal technology that had once made their cities beautiful. But now it served a new purpose. It was the first embassy between humanity and the galactic community. Elder Zix Thara was waiting for them. The ancient Velthari looked much healthier than she had during the plague, her blue skin bright and her golden eyes clear. She approached Ambassador Cruz with all 6 arms extended in the traditional Velthari greeting of friendship. "Welcome to Nethys Station, Ambassador Cruz. We are honored to have you here." Cruz smiled and returned the greeting as well as her 2 arms allowed. "The honor is ours, Elder. We're happy to see your people recovering so well." As they walked through the station's corridors, Cruz could see the changes that had taken place. Velthari engineers were working alongside human technicians, sharing knowledge and building new technologies. The peaceful aliens had much to teach humanity about clean energy and medicine. In return, humans were helping them build defenses to protect their world. But Cruz knew that not everyone in the galaxy was happy about this new friendship. In her private quarters, she reviewed the intelligence reports that had been flooding in from across known space. The news was both encouraging and frightening. On the positive side, dozens of species had sent secret messages to Earth, asking for help or expressing interest in trade. The Makali, who had been slaves to the Korthak for 300 years, had managed to smuggle out a plea for freedom. The Zorvani, whose homeworld was being strip-mined by corporate overlords, begged for intervention. Even some human colonies that had been threatened by pirates were asking for protection. But the bad news was worse. The Hegemony Council, the GUT, group of powerful species that controlled most of galactic politics, was not pleased. They saw humanity as a dangerous new factor that threatened the order they had spent millennia building. A soft chime announced a visitor. Cruz opened the door to find Captain Steve Murphy, the commanding officer of the small human fleet that now patrolled this sector of space. Murphy was younger than Morrison, but just as determined. His ship, the UES Guardian, was part of the new Terran protection force that Earth had quickly assembled. "Ambassador, we have a problem," Murphy said without preamble. "I just received a distress call from the Makali system. The Korthak are taking revenge for what we did here. They're killing civilians." Cruz felt her stomach tighten. This was what she had feared. "How bad is it?" "Bad. They're bombing cities from orbit. Thousands are dead already. The Makali are asking us to help, but we're just 3 ships against the entire Korthak fleet," Cruz finished. Murphy nodded. "I want to go anyway. I know the odds, but I can't just sit here while people die." Cruz studied the young captain. He reminded her of Morrison, who was already becoming a legend back on Earth. "Captain, if you go and lose, humanity loses credibility. But if you don't go, we lose something more important." "What's that, ma'am?" "Our souls." An hour later, the Guardian and 2 other human ships jumped to hyperspace, heading for the Makali system. Cruz watched them go from the station's observation deck, knowing she might never see them again. Meanwhile, in a secure chamber deep within the station, Commander Rachel Foster was analyzing intelligence that would change everything. Foster was Earth's top intelligence officer, a quiet woman who saw patterns where others saw chaos. What she had discovered in the captured Korthak databases was terrifying. The galaxy was not what it seemed. For thousands of years, a secret alliance of powerful species had been controlling the development of younger civilizations. They would allow some species to grow strong enough to be useful, while keeping others weak enough to be exploited. They had been playing a game with the lives of trillions of beings. The Korthak were just one piece of this system. They were allowed to raid and conquer because their actions created refugees and instability, which the Hegemony Council could then solve in exchange for resources and political control. The Velthari had been marked for extinction not because they were a threat, but because their technology was too advanced for a peaceful species. The Council wanted their crystal energy systems, but they wanted the Velthari themselves gone. Foster compiled her evidence carefully. When she was done, she had proof of genocide, slavery, and systematic oppression on a galactic scale. But she knew that simply releasing this information would not be enough. The people of the galaxy needed to see that there was an alternative. That alternative was already forming. In the Macaulay system, Captain Murphy's small fleet was proving that humans could fight for others even when outnumbered. They had arrived to find 12 Korthak ships bombing the planet's cities. Instead of retreating, Murphy had attacked immediately. The battle was brief but decisive. Human tactics, perfected through centuries of warfare, proved superior to the Yao Korthak's brute force approach. 2 human ships were damaged, but all 12 enemy vessels were destroyed. The Macaulay were free for the first time in 3 centuries. Word of the victory spread quickly. Other oppressed species began to hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would help them too. Dr. Karen Walsh, the chief medical officer of the Guardian, was working in a refugee camp she had set up on the Macaulay homeworld. The conditions were terrible. The Korthak had poisoned the water supply and destroyed most of the medical facilities. But Walsh had seen worse during the Earth Plague of 2387, and she knew how to make miracles happen with limited supplies. "Doctor," said one of her assistants, a young Macaulay named Kessitar. "Another group of refugees has arrived from the northern continent. They're in bad shape." Walsh nodded and prepared her mobile medical unit. As she worked, treating injuries caused by Korthak weapons, she thought about how much the galaxy had changed in just a few weeks. Humans had gone from unknown to infamous, to, for some species, hopeful. The Macaulay were not the only ones asking for help. Over the past week, Murphy's fleet had received 17 different distress calls. Some were fake, designed to lure human ships into traps. Others were real emergencies that broke the hearts of every human who heard them. Murphy had to make terrible choices. He could not save everyone, but he tried to save as many as possible, building a reputation for humans as people who kept their promises and protected the weak. Back on Nethys Station, Ambassador Cruz was dealing with a different kind of problem. The Hegemony Council had sent a representative to discuss humanity's recent activities. The representative was a Zerathi, one of the most ancient and powerful species in the galaxy. Ambassador Velthak was tall, elegant, and completely without emotion. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. "Ambassador Cruz, the Hegemony Council is concerned about your species' recent actions. Your interference in established territorial boundaries is causing instability." Cruz kept her expression neutral. "We were responding to calls for help, Ambassador. We believe all sapient life has value. Value is relative. The Korthak Empire serves a purpose in maintaining galactic balance. Your attacks on their forces have disrupted carefully maintained systems." "Systems that involve genocide?" The Zerathi's large eyes showed no emotion. "Sacrifice is sometimes necessary for the greater good. The Hegemony Council has maintained peace for 5,000 years through careful management of conflicts." Cruz leaned forward. "Whose peace? The peace of the strong while the weak suffer? The peace that has prevented galactic war. Your species is young and does not understand the complexities involved. We are prepared to offer you a place in the existing order, if you cease these disruptive activities. And if we refuse, then you will learn why the current order exists. After the Zarathi left, crews contacted Earth immediately. The message she sent was simple but urgent. The galaxy is controlled by those who benefit from suffering. Humanity is being asked to join them or be destroyed. Recommend we prepare for war. The response from Earth came back within hours. President. Williams's message was even simpler. We didn't come this far to start abandoning people now. Do what you think is right. Crews smiled for the first time in days. That was the most human response she could have hoped for. In the depths of space, more human ships were already on their way. Not just military vessels, but colony ships, medical ships, and trade vessels. Humanity was not just coming to fight. They were coming to build something new. The galaxy had lived under the rule of the strong for too long. It was time for something different. It was time for the protectors to arrive. The massive hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. 200 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, formed a perfect battle line facing Earth. At their head was the Zarathi dreadnought Eternal Dominion, a ship older than human civilization. Admiral Tony Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, the flagship of Earth's hastily assembled fleet. Blake was a veteran of every major human conflict of the past 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The enemy had come to humanity's home to deliver an ultimatum. "Sir," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Gary Ross, "the Zarathi commander is requesting to speak with you." Blake nodded. "Put him through." The main screen filled with the image of Supreme Commander Zeth Kalar, the oldest and most powerful member of the Hegemony Council. The ancient Zarathi had lived for 3,000 years and had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of ages. "I am Supreme Commander Zeth Kalar. I speak for the Hegemony Council and the established order of this galaxy. You will cease your interference in galactic affairs immediately. You will withdraw all human forces from non-human space. You will submit to hegemony authority. You have 1 hour to comply." Blake looked around. His bridge. His crew was young, mostly volunteers who had joined the space service after hearing about Captain Morrison's stand at Nethys. They looked nervous but determined. Good. He felt the same way. "Commander Zeth Kalar, this is Admiral Tony Blake of the Terran Defense Force. We received your message, and here's our answer." "No." The Zarathi's large eyes showed the first emotion Blake had seen from their species. "Surprise. You refuse? You have 47 ships, we have 200. Your refusal means the extinction of your species." Blake smiled grimly. "Commander, you've been ruling this galaxy for a long time. Maybe too long. You've forgotten what happens when people get tired of being pushed around. Your bravado means nothing. You cannot fight the combined might of the hegemony." "Maybe not. But we're not alone." As if summoned by his words, new ships began appearing throughout the Sol system. Velthari crystal ships dropped out of hyperspace, near Jupiter. Mikali vessels, their hulls still bearing scars from Korthak attacks, materialized near Mars. The sleek ships of a dozen other liberated species filled the space around Earth. But it was not just alien vessels. Human ships were arriving too. Not just military ships, but civilian vessels that had been converted for war. Cargo haulers with weapons bolted to their hulls. Passenger liners filled with volunteers. Mining ships carrying improvised missiles. Even the old colony transport New Horizon had come, her ancient hull bristling with whatever weapons her crew could find. Captain Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from the bridge of the Defiance. "Admiral Blake, this is Morrison. Sorry we're late to the party, we brought some friends." Blake felt a surge of pride as he watched the fleet assemble. Humanity had called for help, and the galaxy had answered. Not the powerful species that served the hegemony, but the oppressed, the forgotten, the ones who had been written off as unimportant. Dr. Patricia Wong, Earth's chief scientist, stepped forward on the bridge. She was a small woman with quick eyes and an even quicker mind. In her hands, she carried a datapad that contained the most damaging information in galactic history. "Admiral, everything is ready," she said quietly. Blake nodded. "Commander Zeth-Kalar, before this goes any further, I want to show you something. The whole galaxy is going to see this." Dr. Wong activated her equipment. Across every communication frequency, on every world with receiving equipment, on every ship in known space, the same broadcast began. It was the evidence that Commander Foster had gathered, combined with additional proof that human intelligence agents had collected over the past months. The galaxy watched in horror as the truth was revealed. Thousands of years of systematic oppression, genocide disguised as natural disasters, slavery presented as economic necessity, and wars started to benefit the powerful. The Hegemony Council had not been keeping the peace. They had been profiting from suffering. The broadcast showed Korthak ships receiving orders from Hegemony commanders. It showed Zarathi banks funding slave traders. It showed the deliberate poisoning of worlds whose inhabitants had grown too independent. It showed the murder of species who had developed technologies that threatened hegemony control. But most importantly, it showed an alternative. The broadcast included footage of human ships rescuing civilians, human doctors treating alien diseases, human engineers building schools and hospitals on liberated worlds. It showed what the galaxy could be if it was ruled by compassion instead of greed. Supreme Commander Zeth-Kalar watched his empire crumble in real time. Across the galaxy, enslaved populations were rising in revolt. Hegemony client states were declaring independence. Even some council member species were turning against their own governments. "You have doomed this galaxy to chaos," the ancient Zarathi said, its voice filled with cold rage. "No," Blake replied. "We've given it a chance at freedom." The battle that followed was not the one-sided slaughter that Zeth-Kalar had expected. The Hegemony fleet was larger and more powerful, but they were fighting against people who had nothing left to lose. Human tactics, combined with the desperate courage of newly freed species, proved devastating. Captain Steve Murphy led a squadron of mixed human and Macaulay ships in a direct assault on the Hegemony line. The enemy expected the smaller ships to retreat when faced with overwhelming firepower. Instead, they attacked with suicidal bravery, breaking through the enemy formation and striking at the command ships. Commander Rachel Foster, now aboard a captured Korthak vessel, led a team of intelligence specialists in electronic warfare. They turned the Hegemony's own technology against them, causing enemy ships to fire on each other and disrupting their communications. Dr. Karen Walsh worked frantically aboard a mobile medical station, treating wounded from both sides. Even in the middle of battle, humans insisted on caring for enemy casualties. This act of mercy was broadcast across the galaxy, showing everyone what humanity stood for. The tide turned when Elder Zixathera arrived with the full Velthari fleet. The peaceful species had spent the past months building something they had never needed before: weapons of war. But these were not weapons designed to kill. They were designed to disable, to capture, to end conflicts without ending lives. Velthari, crystal technology, powered by human innovation and guided by human tactical knowledge, proved unstoppable. Enemy ships found their weapons drained of power, their engines shut down, their crews unharmed but helpless. Supreme Commander Zeth-Kalar made one last desperate play. He ordered his ships to target Earth directly, hoping to destroy humanity's homeworld, even if it meant losing the battle. But as the Hegemony dreadnoughts turned their planet-killing weapons toward the blue world below, something unexpected happened. Ships from across the galaxy moved to protect Earth. Velthari vessels formed a crystal shield around the planet. Macaulay, fighters threw themselves between the dreadnoughts and their target. Even former Hegemony species, inspired by humanity's example, turned against their old masters. The ancient Zarathi commander found himself alone, his fleet scattered or captured, his empire collapsing around him. In the end, the Eternal Dominion surrendered without firing a shot. Admiral Blake accepted the surrender aboard his flagship, with representatives from dozens of species present as witnesses. When Zethkalar was brought before him, the old alien looked small and fragile, like a relic from a darker age. "You have won," the Zarathi said simply. "What will you do now? Will you rule as we did?" Blake looked around at the mixed crew on his bridge. Humans worked alongside Velthari, Makali, and a dozen other species. They were not conquerors. They were protectors. "No," Blake said. "We're going to do something you never understood. We're going to help people help themselves." 6 months later, Ambassador Helen Cruz stood in the Great Assembly Hall on Nethys Station. The hall was filled with representatives from over 100 species, all gathered to sign the charter of the Terran Protective Alliance. It was not an empire or a hegemony. It was a promise. The promise was simple. No species would face extinction alone. No world would cry for help without an answer. No people would suffer under tyrants while others looked away. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, gave the closing speech. He stood at the podium where Elder Zixathera had once faced the end of her civilization and spoke words that would echo across the galaxy for generations. "We didn't come to the stars to conquer them. We came to make them a better place. Today, we're not ending something old. We're beginning something new. A galaxy where the strong protect the weak, where help comes to those who call for it, and where no one has to face the dark alone." As the delegates signed the charter, a new signal went out across the galaxy. It replaced the old emergency frequencies that had once carried only silence or exploitation. The new message was broadcast in 1,000 languages, but the meaning was always the same. "You are not alone. If you need help, call us. We are coming." The stars, which had been silent for so long, were finally filled with hope.